also tends to be more affluent, willing to higher disposable income. So that helps us a lot. We make a lot of money from virtual goods and things like that. And also for Nightclub City, that product is 51 female, 49 male. It's 70% between 18 to 33, something like that. So, I mean, it's great for us. I mean, that's like the perfect demographic that we want, actually. So it works pretty well.
Is there a recommendation function in MyTown? Can you give your opinion on locations?
Yes, you can give tips, comments on any place that you check into, and you can even give comments on places that you've bought. So you can actually browse your friends' properties, 10 different properties, and be like, oh, I can't believe you like, this restaurant. I hate geese or whatever. Yeah, so you can say that.
Could we imagine in the future, we talked about that in the last week, a mix between TripAdvisor and MyTown and all the.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like a lot of really great ideas that you can intersect. I think for us now that we've built a really cool product, I think one of the biggest learnings that we have is to always do one thing well and keep it simple. So if we have something that's like kind of more like TripAdvisor, we'd rather build a second product and make that targeted specifically for a certain client base, because once you start putting stuff together, it's harder for people to understand like your product. And that's always you want to have the first 5 seconds people go, aha, like I get like what the product is. And our goal is always to reduce that amount of time when people like see your product and understand it. And we actually measure that very, very carefully. So
I remember the brands, like if you have McDonald's, they have no power at all on the virtual world. So aren't they afraid of losing their strengths on their brand?
with McDonald's?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's really funny because we're doing a thing with McDonald's right now, and you just gotta, for example, they're very hungry to grow actually because they're competing with Starbucks, right? And they're still viewed as number 2. So we'll just say stuff like, hey, you should come work with us because every time someone walks into a Starbucks, we'll drop a virtual item that is like McDonald's. They're like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is exactly like what we want. Imagine you walk into a competitor's place and you get an ad or a half off and you see the McDonald's and Starbucks are always next to each other. So like those are the sort of things that we can build that's like location-based advertising and marketing. So there's a lot of things you can kind of do with that. And we have 250 million virtual items that drop in the real world. So what that means is if I check into an H&M, I can get an H&M item and the clothing that looks exactly like their products that came out that week. So we actually stream it. So if I check into a theater right now, I will see a little golden popcorn that shows up in my game. I can click on it and it'll show the MTV Video Awards that's happening today. It's like embeddable with video, questionnaires, surveys. If I check into a pharmacy right now, I get oil of Olay cream, and it'll actually ask you what type of skin you have, and it'll recommend you a certain type of cream. So these are the things that we're already doing right now. It's like really, really interesting, and a lot of companies are interested because it's about local intent, right? Like it's not just about giving you an ad. It doesn't matter to you if it's not the right context. It's only like when you're walking into the supermarket that you might care about what type of like milk that you want to buy or cereal. So.
And did you build applications or games for a big enterprise, something like that?
I worked at Blizzard, right? So that's the #1 biggest video game company. I mean, it's Vivendi, right? Did it with Blizzard.
Is it possible if I'm BNP Paribas or Lafarge to come to you and say, okay, I want to build an application like MyTown, but for my business? Is it possible?
There's other companies that do more white labeling. For us, as I mentioned before, we want to build, we're kind of more like Apple. Like we want to build our own products that we're excited about that will create a lot of loyalty for our brand. And also, I think just in our opinion, like we care a lot about the user experience and also the presentation. And so we're there to build the craft. I mean, we don't want to make stuff for other people, but we just do it because we're excited as a company. And I think that's what gets everyone very excited about it.
What about the privacy?
Privacy, it's all opt-in, right? And so if you, we have a lot of different things that says, hey, you could turn this off, turn this on, do you want to share this with your friends? It's all opt-in. So if you don't want to do it, then you don't check in and you don't publish that you're on Facebook publishing it. So I think we're pretty secure, and we also, of course, have a terms of service that you click on, right? So it tells you exactly what happens when things occur. So, and people agree to that inside the app, and when they download it, it's also on our website. So there's really no way that if you're using the app, you basically have to agree to our terms of service for privacy. So cool.
Do you ever get people that don't agree to the terms of service, or would there be any way you would know that? If anyone would, do you think people ever read the terms of service and say, no, I don't like that, and stop?
Well,
I don't know if you naturally know.
I think that's like that for like almost like everything out there. I think it's more about defending ourselves in terms of, I'm sure people are going to say that I didn't read it, but technically if they said that they read it and agreed to it, then there's nothing they can say. I mean, for us, we just don't want to get sued and waste our time. So, yeah. So, cool. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate you guys dropping by. Apologize that, you know, we weren't that prepared. So, but you guys are here for just a couple days. Did you guys go to WWDC, or did you guys go to that?
No, that's not so much in our line of interest. You've got a lot of people from large businesses who are trying to work out what the web and social media can do for them within and with customers. And a couple of us here just get really groovy ideas.
Yeah.
So we know what's going on.
Well, I think the biggest one is like I think social media right now. I think that if you guys are large companies, I think the biggest takeaway is if there's a way that, I think that's why you guys have immersion labs, right? Like, you have to give a different set of incentives for a smaller group of your employees to be able to do something that's going to be very, very cutting edge, but it has to be a different set of incentives, and the results may never show until maybe 2-3 years later, and it will never push the needle for your company, right? It's never going to make the money yet, but you look at companies like Blizzard and some of these bigger guys, at some point they'll either have to buy another company that can do what they can't do inside their company, or they had invested a couple years beforehand to do it. And any product that you create now, at some point it will kind of go down like another different life cycle. So I'll give you a great example, like Blizzard. They make really large like games like MMOs, and they make tons and tons of money, but you know that money's not gonna like last forever, right? They're making $2 billion. So I mean, if someone said, hey, we're gonna hire another smart guy, let's put him on World of Warcraft, right? And he's making $2 billion, or should we put him on this small like project that really we know that is gonna be the future, but it's not gonna make money for another 2-3 years. I think that's the hardest decision that every like large company has to make, is it's not going to show up yet, but it's going to like turn up later. And if you give that person the incentive, like, hey, we're going to give you do an awesome job and whatever, then you're going to get like some sort of like extra profit or bonus based around that. They're very incented, but they live and die by that. So basically, if you don't do well, then you basically don't make any money or something like that. So you really create that very strong like startup mentality, even within a large company. At some point, all those learnings are going to carry over to all of your other products, and people will know because they had to like survive. Like for us, because we're a small startup, necessity is like the mother of invention, and so like for us, we find every way to survive and make money, and that's the only way like you're going to be able to innovate. So when there's no other choice left and no resources left. So we had very little money like when we first started. When we worked really